clubbing is such escapism, but that can be escapism from boring things, bills and financial worries. When you come crashing down on a Monday or Tuesday morning from whatever you've been doing at the weekend, all that stuff kind of rushes back into your life. If you're using clubbing, I always worry about this, if you're using clubbing to run away from your problems, eventually they'll probably catch up with you. Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Your Head in Mind podcast, where we explore mental health from all angles. So I'm delighted today to have a guest on whose work I've admired for a really long time, Ali Wells, also known as Perc. So he's not only a pioneering force in the techno scene, but also the founder of Perc Tracks, a label known for its raw, uncompromising sound. So it's such a pleasure to have you here. I've seen you live quite a few times. So yeah, I'm going to dive straight into questions, if that's okay. So I'd love to know what drew you to the electronic music scene and why did you want to become a DJ in the first place?
I never really wanted to become a DJ. It was more producing. Like I like going out and I liked hearing DJs play. And yeah, I was producing to start with. And then when I was very young, when I was like 15, and then when I started going clubbing and stuff, seeing more DJs, I started kind of getting into that side of things. I went to university and was around people that already had decks and setups for DJing, and just kind of dropped into that. And I never really took it that seriously. And then when my production started getting signed, I started getting offered gigs, and I sort of jumped back in it with a bit more enthusiasm then.
Okay, nice. And then is there anything that drew you specifically to like the techno scene?
No, well, I don't know, just liking the music. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just the kind of feeling of how back then it was a bit more anonymous. Like you could be an artist and people wouldn't know your face. Like you'd pay to see a DJ whose music or even whose DJ mixes you'd bought, like even a DJ mix on CD or something like that. And you'd get the club, and if they hadn't put set times up, on the walls, you might not even know when the guy's on. Like, is it the guy that just stepped on, or is it going to be the next one or whatever? It was quite strange to actually. You didn't want to be stupid and go and ask someone, "Is this so and so?" But so there's much more of an air of anonymity there. That's obviously with social media is completely gone now.
Yeah, it's a bit different these days. You know everything. It's on social media first in a lot of cases. And specifically to mental health, you did mention to me that you attended a mental health discussion panel in Montreal. So where did your interest in mental health come from?
Well, it's not really an interest. I think it's just something that's obviously it's something that is part of all of us and affects us, and that's it. Actually, the Montreal thing in the end I missed because of a flight delay. So Manny D stepped in and covered it for me because he was playing an event for the same promoter the next day. But it would have been nice to have been part of it, but it didn't happen that time. But yeah, it was the thought was there.
Yeah, so what was that about? Just talking about mental health in like the club space?
Yeah, I think they had a couple of DJs on the panel and maybe someone from the promoter team, and it was just about everything. The mental health side of being a touring DJ, and then also obviously the sort of challenges of being a promoter in this day and age. And of course that feeds into things like stress and anxiety as you try to at least break even, let alone make a profit on an event. Yeah.
From your journey as a DJ and producer, what has it taught you about like your own mental health, both as an artist and actually being part of the club scene?
I think it's just being aware of it, being careful, learning to sort of, when you're younger, you're much more sort of gung-ho and you just dive into everything. Take on as much work as you can, take as many gigs as you can, party in, when the opportunity arises. And I think as you get a bit older, you realize that's maybe, that's good, especially when you're younger. But I think there comes a kind of break point where you have to be a bit more conscious of what you're doing and how it's affecting both, your mental health and also your sort of longer career prospects.
Yeah, I understand that. And would you say that, sometimes the late nights and stuff do affect your mental health?
Well, of course, yeah. On just the most basic level, being tired. If you're playing 2, 3, I think 4 gigs in a row, like 4 nights in a row is the most I've ever done. And it's if you're tired, it's sort of tiredness upon tiredness, and it kind of compounds itself. If you get to the point where you're so tired, you're almost sort of hallucinating, like a little kind of peripheral vision sort of things happening, or let's say you're in a DJ booth and there's an object in the DJ booth and you keep thinking it's someone coming up to you when it's just like a pole or something. So you're just out in the corner of your vision. Yeah, the things like that, it makes the whole thing a little bit worrying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and also if you're trying to maintain, you're DJing at weekends, you may be running a record label during the week, you're producing, obviously you've got family and friends and all those things to, give time to as well. It becomes too much. And if you're coming back on a Sunday night, Monday morning, and then you're destroyed for the first few days of the week, then you're really it's an uphill battle every week just to get your work done and to maintain those kind of relationships.
The push and pull of everything, really.
Yeah, it becomes a lot. Yeah.
I'd say for me, I love raving, but now I've got a bit older now. I'm 29, and I've got to the point where I really value my sleep. So it can be a bit difficult, because a lot of these events are focused very much in the nighttime industry.
Of course, yeah.
And I don't know about you, but when I don't sleep well, then that's when I start to feel anxious. If I haven't had a good night's sleep, I feel a bit on edge the next day.
Yeah, of course. You get anxious, maybe a bit more sort of snappy. It's if a conversation's kind of going your way, normally it's totally fine. But if a problem arises, and of course with DJing, like a travel problem or something at the venue isn't as you expected it, then it's kind of harder just to kind of take a step outside yourself and realize it's a much better way is to stay calm and try and resolve these problems rather than just being a bit snappy with someone.
Yeah, your resilience goes down, really.
Yeah, and then you're meeting people that you don't know. It's very strange. You're meeting people that you don't know, but they know you, or they know you from online.
Yeah.
They're asking questions about things, and sometimes these people are really nice. Most of the time, they're really nice. But occasionally, I know if someone's trying to talk to you about something very technical, like a minute before you're going to play to say 1,000 people, it's not really the time and place for that. And then you've got and then you haven't slept properly for 2 or 3 nights. It's like a bunch of different factors joining together to make it into quite a tricky situation.
Yeah, I understand that. From DJing and just music in general, has there ever been a point where your mental health has reached a point which has changed your relationship with it at all?
No, I think it's just got to a point where you realize it's time to get some sleep, or if you had a really busy week planned after a bunch of gigs, maybe sort of write to some people and kind of put off some of those projects, ask for maybe another week to finish a project, and just take a few days off. Just like I live in London, so just like walking around the city, doing things that are away from music, away from screens, that kind of thing. Just kind of get some sort of me time again.
Yeah, I get that. And would you say, do you have compassion for yourself in that way? Like if you can't, meet the expectations you set on yourself, would you feel bad, or would you just be like, okay, I need this time?
Yeah, generally I kind of push myself quite hard. And, most DJs are basically self-employed. So if they're, I can't really delegate a remix to someone else, I guess unless the people that are kind of ghost produced and things like that. But no, for me, it's like, if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. So it's a balance. But normally if I come home, say on a Monday morning, if it's an overnight flight or something, I come home on a Monday morning, it makes much more sense to sleep.
Yeah.
For a chunk of the Monday, maybe get to work even at 9 or 10 at night and do some of the sort of urgent stuff, or just leave it till the Tuesday. That works better than jumping off a plane and then trying to be either sort of business focused and maybe handling, finances and stuff, or on the other side of the coin, trying to be creative.
Yeah, you definitely need that.
When you're tired, it's pretty hard as well.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of, what you were saying before about when you used to see DJs and you might not even know what they look like.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel you have to keep up a specific kind of like persona or energy to match like expectations, or?
Well, no, not so much. Obviously, in terms of performing, like musically, people are going to expect a certain kind of thing, and you have to sort of deliver that. Whilst you always want to push forward and try different things. So there's still that. I'm not there's some DJs that really jump around and perform and climb on the speakers and those kind of things that you see a lot more these days. So if the fans of that DJ have seen them do that week in, week out on Instagram,
they're going to have to do it.
And then they go to the gig and the guy's a bit tired and he plays a great set, but it's a bit more heads down. Then some people sort of feel cheated that they've not had the performance aspects of it, the performative part of it. When for me, I don't want to look like I'm just staring at my shoes for 2 hours, but I'm not. I move around and there is some movement and interaction with the crowd, but it's not as performative as some people. So I don't feel I have to deliver that side of the performance.
Yeah, let the music do the talking on your behalf.
Yeah, generally like a nice dark club, and if it's the right kind of crowd, they shouldn't be expecting.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about? I've seen maybe back in the 90s or whatever, the DJ wouldn't even be the focus, right? And I've seen some people kind of calling for that.
Yeah, there's different levels of that. To have the DJ completely hidden is, I think, a little bit too much of a kind of some sort. I don't know what the word is. Some sort of break. It breaks the relationship between the audience and the DJ. I think a DJ where you can just about see their head and they can make eye contact and things like that. I think that's about the right thing. I've never liked having a DJ on a sort of stage, like playing like a general purpose, like a concert venue or like a place where rock bands would play. Having a DJ on a stage, on a big stage with a relatively small setup in the middle of it looks a bit strange.
Yeah, I think I agree.
But at the same time, the kind of trend now for everything to be the kind of boiler room style thing with people all over you. Generally, in that format, people are respectful, even if they're a bit kind of intoxicating. They're bumping into you. It's accidental. But that if you're really tired, if you're really tired at the end of a weekend, you're playing a Sunday night gig or something, and you've got 50 people, sweaty people, kind of climbing all over you. It can get a little bit much.
Yeah. Especially if you're sober or.
Generally you're sober, you're tired or whatever.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
It depends what mood I'm in. Sometimes I want to be in the middle of that kind of bear pit feeling, and then sometimes, like I played in Phoenix in December, and it was like a sort of cage. Like the DJ was literally locked in a kind of black cage, and there was just small gaps between the bars where you could see the dance floor. Yeah, the mood I was in at the time, it was like, just lock me in here. Let me do my thing, and then.
Yeah, that sounds fine. Quite nice.
Yeah,
the thing is, at the end of the day, it's your job, and if I was going to work, you're not going to be in the same mood every day.
Yeah, it's different. It's different every time. I remember years ago, DJ booths used to be little rooms, so that you have a door, and you knock on the door, and the door might have a little glass window in it, and you'd step in, shut the door behind you, and people wouldn't disturb you. You still had the front was open, and you could see the crowd, but you're in your own little room. Like some of the New York places, like some of the old New York clubs where someone like Danny Tenaglia would play. It'd be his own. He'd like build this room to his own spec. It might even have like a bathroom in there or a sink and fridges with drinks and snacks, and it'd be his own little lounge almost, like playing in your lounge. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, and because it has a door, it becomes a bit more private.
Yeah, for sure. Rather than having so many people just around
you. Yeah. You might even have someone on the door just making sure. Yeah, your friends come in, or your manager, or whatever, or the club owner, but it's not just becomes another place to party. Yeah.
So, talking now more specifically about the club scene in general.
Yeah.
Do you think that the techno scene carries any specific, or unique mental health pressures compared to other genres?
No, I think the rise in BPMs and the speed of music in the last 5 to 7 years, I think that can be it pushes people harder in terms of how they sort of dance and move. I don't know how that affects mental health physically. Of course, if they've whatever they've been taking, that can affect you if you're sort of pounding away on the dance floor at 160 BPM, or if you're taking drugs to kind of match that kind of intensity of music. Then, as we know, that ongoing drug use will affect mental health.
Yeah,
of course.
Sure.
I don't think I don't think there's a big difference between techno and, say, tech house or drum and bass or something like that. I guess different scenes have different sort of ways of partying associated with them. Things that are seen as part of that scene and things that are seen as not so appropriate. It's the same with time. Different eras have had different substances people take and different ways people party. But I don't think the techno scene is any better or worse in its own unique way than any other scene.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. And, going on from what you said about faster BPMs and, it can become a bit overstimulating. I mean, especially for me. So I recently found out I have autism and ADHD, for
Okay.
example.
Yeah.
And, I didn't really realize at the time, but, I love clubbing, but sometimes I would feel very much overwhelmed, so many people and then like very
Yeah.
loud noises. So I guess it can contribute to that in some people sometimes.
Yeah, like it depends on the person and the club. Some people feel overstimulated. If there's it's quite clubs are generally brighter these days to allow the filming of content.
Mm.
So they're much brighter, big LED screens, things like that. Even like things you're not expecting, like kind of fireworks or in pyrotechnics. So some people that's a bit too much, and then for other people, a club like Tresor in Berlin that's pitch black, thick smoke, and maybe one red light at the end of the room. For them, that could be kind of a problem as well because it's almost intimidating.
Mm.
If you're happy, if you're comfortable with it, you can kind of lose yourself in the kind of smoke and just dance like you're on your own. For other people, yeah, it could be almost bring on sort of a sense of paranoia or something. Yeah.
What do you prefer?
I guess the dark club.
Yeah.
Like if some go so far that if you can't see your hand in front of your face, and then if you want to leave the dance floor to get a drink
You don't know
or
where you're
something,
going.
you're bumping into people as well. And you
Right.
don't know if it's your first time there, you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a balance, but something that's a bit, in my eyes, overproduced. So it's
Mm.
like 30-foot high video screens and all this. It just becomes a bit much. But then that's the people that are going to that they're expecting the
Yeah, high
spectacle.
production kind of value,
There
yeah.
was a sort of Skrillex show, I think, maybe a month or two ago, and it was billed as a kind of back to basics. No, only him on the lineup, like a 4 or 5 hour set, and there was no, apart from some sort of basic lights, there was no production, and most of the comments were just saying like, "Where are the lasers? Where are the screens?" Even though it had been stated
Yeah, that was,
in
yeah.
kind of the event pages, the promotion for it, this kind of the strip back thing didn't work, and people were missing that kind of big
Mm.
visual stimulation as well as the musical stimulation.
Right, yeah, I can kind of understand if you're expecting that, then it's not there. But
Yeah,
yeah. And so what other kinds of mental strain do you think like clubbers experience? You've got the lack of sleep, but with
yeah.
if you throw in, overstimulation, lack of rest and all these other things, and maybe there's people that are going out every single week.
Mhm.
What effect can that have?
I think it just builds up. Normally you're going out in a sort of group of friends, peer group. I've been part of this years ago, and it kind of goes on, and it's some of you want to go clubbing, some of you don't, but you end up going, and in the same way, then it becomes an after party or a second club, and you kind of push each other along, and I think at some point that can be tough for personal relationships. If you're in a group of clubbers or something, and people are dating because they're spending so much time socializing in that group, and if that relationship then sort of breaks apart or something, then that plus as lack of sleep, the stimulation, whatever, it goes on and on and on. There's also a thing at the moment. Well, it's always been there, but at the moment, clubbing is expensive. It costs money. It's not just, it's a ticket, but it's everything else: drinks, transport, whatever. If you're in a group of people that you're kind of pushing each other to go clubbing, it can be your last 100 quid for the month or whatever, and you spend it on clubbing, and then it's almost like you don't want the clubbing to finish, because once it's finished, you're back to reality. The fact you got no money, or you can't pay a bill or something. So it's everything. It's kind of clubbing is such escapism that can also be you're paying for it financially, but that can be escapism from boring things, bills and financial worries. And then when you come crashing down on a Monday or Tuesday morning from whatever you've been doing at the weekend, all that stuff kind of rushes back into your life.
Yeah, makes it even worse because you're coming down from such a high of having such a good time as well.
Yeah, and if you're using clubbing, I always worry about this. If you're using clubbing to run away from your problems, eventually they'll probably catch up with you.
Yeah, for sure. That's going on from that. I would say, do you notice any patterns in people for a difference between people who are out to celebrate or as a way of coping or numbing themselves, or they just really enjoy the music? Can you notice that?
Yeah, there's different types of clubbers. Obviously, sometimes it's hard to tell just from looking at them.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's people there that are just for the music and either have no drinks or one or two drinks just to kind of almost warm up a little bit. There's people there who don't have a great love for the music. They'll like the genre. They'll choose to go to a techno club over a drum and bass club or something, but they're really there just to, it's pure kind of hedonism, escapism. And then there's just kind of the peer group of people that the club has been chosen as a kind of maybe a compromise for a few people, but they want to do something together.
Yeah, I get you.
They go and they're the kind of quiet nights that become the sort of 3-day session of things. And if you're holding down a full-time day job as well, and you're finishing partying at Sunday night, even Monday morning, then it's tough.
Yeah,
really tough.
I can. Yeah, no thanks for me. So between the use of nightlife and escapism, do you think it's a fine line between like expressing yourself and self-liberation and like self-destruction?
Yeah, I think it's a fine line. Yeah, I think it's a slippery slope. It's gradual and it happens over time. And you need any kind of book on sort of the history of clubbing, the kind of Simon Reynolds type books and things like that. You'll see how scenes, a new city will maybe start promoting electronic music, or a new genre of music will pop up in a city and sort of slowly start to kind of be solidified as a genre. And then you'll see at the start, it's all kind of almost sort of peace and love and positivity. And then even within 2-3 years, it kind of gets a bit darker. The music often gets darker and faster. And the kind of the things people are doing at parties, and the parties go from one day to partying weekend is like, instead of being one night as a treat, becomes a 3 or 4 day thing. People that are barely sober, maybe for like 1 or 2 days a week, and then from Thursday night, Friday night onwards, they're back on it.
Yeah, for sure. And
it can get a bit dark that way.
Yeah, there is a lot of like, for example, I've seen a lot of like, especially in techno scene, like use of demonic, I guess, visuals and that kind of thing. Yeah, what do you think about that?
I'm not a particularly religious person, because some religious people find it offensive to Christianity or whatever. It's just it's just another kind of cliche. It's always happened around techno and things like that, in the same way it's around something like heavy metal. But it's been taken to kind of extremes now. And like, as I said earlier in the interview, I liked it when this music was a little bit more anonymous, a bit faceless. And now, it's kind of, if you're dressing up as some kind of demon or something, it becomes almost like kind of hair metal from Los Angeles in the 80s and 90s, or like American wrestling. It's kind of, I want a DJ to be themselves. Like, if you're on stage, you might be a slightly exaggerated version of yourself because you're performing and there's adrenaline and things like that. That's totally understandable. But if you're really doing, like, you're becoming a sort of character that you've quite kind of carefully designed, even with maybe your management or with a kind of almost like focus group, bunch of industry professionals, then it's just a bit contrived. It's not for me. And often you get these people that are writing on their like Instagram posts about opening the gates of hell or something like this. And you hear the music they're playing, and it's hard and fast, but it's quite kind of, if you're like saying you're going to open the gates of hell and then you're playing like a Britney Spears edit, for me the two don't really match up.
100%. And you know what? Seeing some of those like demonic visuals. I mean, I haven't actually been at a gig, I don't think, where I've really seen much of that. But if I was like off my head and seeing that would make me very anxious.
It's whether you take it seriously or with a pinch of salt. If you weren't expecting it,
some people get in some states, and
they do, and I know some people that are quite annoyed by it. There's some people that still like are going out and partying quite hard, but they still, in the back of their mind, they have a sort of Christian or religious background, and they don't, they don't think it's cool to talk about it all the time, and they think they're boring people with it, but it's there in the background, and then you've got a track or visuals going on about Satan or something. It can get a bit much, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and people wouldn't do it without referencing other religions, I don't think.
I get
that.
If
you're doing something that's traditionally Christian, and it's kind of you can have with Christianity. It's fine to have a little bit of a laugh with it, but I think if you did it with other religions, people would be much more worried about the kickback they'd get.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And for you personally, let's say you've been touring, not had much sleep, or just in general, how do you manage like good mental health? Like, do you have any specific practices or things that you do?
No, compared with how I was, 15 years ago, drink less. I mean, alcohol. Drink more water. Try and sleep where you can. In the past, I would always fly into a city and then go to like an artist dinner, which is nice. You meet the promoter, you might meet the other artists, whether they're existing friends of yours or they're people you respect but you've never met before. Then that would often maybe sometimes go to a bar or something for some drinks, and then you kind of go back to the hotel, grab your equipment, and play the gig. Now that's kind of changed. I generally land, go straight to the hotel, eat on my own, maybe try and rest. A key thing is all sort of musical preparation I do before in the week before I go. Not that thing of when I get to the hotel I'll do 3 or 4 hours and get everything sorted then, because you don't know how tired you're going to be. You could have a flight delay. You could have if you have a situation where the sort of the club, the hotel, and say the airport are quite a long way away, maybe 45 minutes, hours drive. Promoters insisting on a sound check. Suddenly it's like eating into your time because you got to go 45 minutes to the club, sound check, back to the hotel, try and rest, these things. And so suddenly you thought you had 4 or 5 hours and it's suddenly becoming a bit of a rush.
Yeah, it's putting a lot more pressure on yourself.
Yeah, and it makes, like, I used to sometimes say no to a sound check and just trust the promoter, but like, even if 1 in 50 times that leads to a problem, then so now I always do a sound check, even if it's like I'm tired and it might not be necessary. And generally, it's not that necessary for the way I play. But these things just help you. And also, if you're gonna try and like rest before the gig, knowing that everything's set up and ready to go is quite reassuring.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than getting text messages about the promoter saying, I'm at the venue and I've got you this equipment or that equipment, and then you're like, well, that's incorrect, and it becomes a nightmare. So just being prepared, eating and drinking better, less alcohol. I always try and sleep, even if I had a chance of, say, 2 hours sleep between after the club before going to the airport. I always try and sleep if I can, because even an hour's sleep, I think, just puts a psychological sort of cut between the separation between 2 days. Like a little bit of sleep makes one day finish and another one start. Otherwise, it just rolls on and on.
Any bit of sleep is good for you, especially if you're tired. Even an hour can really help. Yeah, I agree. I massively value sleep.
Yeah, no, I do. I've become much more appreciative of it as I've got older. A short sleep or whatever. The problem is, like, if you're jet lagged or something, that's what's frustrating. The promoter goes, finally, you've got some time. You've got 4 or 5 hours. And then you get to the hotel, you might have a shower, and then you crash into the bed, and then you're just sitting there staring at the ceiling.
Yeah.
And I'm not someone, like, some people will take sort of light, sedatives or something like that, but that's not something I want to do. And of course, that becomes another.
That can become an addiction in itself.
Yeah, become addiction and come mixed up with anything else.
For sure. And do you usually DJ sober, or do you have a few drinks, or do you use any substances?
I have no substances. I used to drink a lot more than I do before I played. Now I think normally, like, if it's, say, a standard bottle of beer, like 1 or 2 before I play.
Okay, nice.
And then generally when I play, I don't want to drink more than a drink an hour.
Okay.
Really, if 2 hours set, 2 drinks.
Okay, that's pretty reasonable.
And so sometimes so it can build up, but I'm not going there to drink to sort of get wasted or under some kind of illusion that I play better drunk, which a lot of people will say. I obviously there's the thing of alcohol loosening you up a little bit, which is why I'd have like a beer or something, especially if I don't know the promoters or the club. But it's not that thing of drinking a lot and somehow thinking you're sort of drunk. The drunk half of you will kind of carry you through the set. Because you can do that. You can play what you think is a great set, and then
you can't really remember.
Right, I've never had this, but I've heard of agents calling their DJs on a Monday morning saying, "Yeah, so how was the gig?" And the DJ's like, "Yeah, it was really great." And then the promoter emailed me, and it's like, "Oh, okay." And they haven't done anything, nasty or like rude. They've been polite, but just the quality of the performance. If you're playing a 2-hour set and say the last half an hour really drops off, that's probably a sign that the alcohol or whatever's
having taken effect.
Yeah, because obviously it takes time to build up.
Yeah, I don't really drink much anymore, and I guess
I don't drink much.
No, and well, I DJ just for fun, and if I've played at some parties or something, I can definitely feel like I'm nowhere near as good. Because, your reactions and your sense of what you're doing kind of falls off, doesn't it, as well? So I guess it is maintaining a balance, because I'm sure a lot of people, especially up and coming DJs, might feel this nervousness or anxiety before playing a big gig, and that's one of the reasons I think there's a lot of drug use, even by performers, because there is that sense of anxiety, and you've got to meet this standard that you set for yourself.
Yeah. But I think the industry has got better in the way it promotes DJs. If you remember years ago, certain British print magazines that are from the sort of dance music would have, Caner of the Month and these kind of things, or they'd have like stories about DJs getting wasted with the name kind of blanked out and things like that.
Right, yeah.
And that kind of
glorifies
glorifies it. And I still, and it's sadly, there's still a thing of like, if you're going to after parties with promoters or something, that's a way of building a friendship and a bond. Some promoters, they're booking DJs because they like the music, of course, and they think they're going to maybe sell tickets and be good for their business. But also they're booking them because they like the person. The person like maybe likes to party with them. So it's like, oh, book him. He was fun last time.
Yeah, I get you.
So there's still a little bit of pressure to kind of not get completely wasted, but just kind of socialize. Socializing is a good term. And I know people that have got gigs just by randomly sitting next to a promoter at an after party and things like that. So if you just play the gig and hide in your hotel room, these opportunities might not arise. But at the same time, you've got to be very careful physically and mentally of what you're doing to yourself.
Well, I guess you can also take more time to yourself because you're already established. You've got your own label and things now.
Yeah. I'm in a different place to where I was a while ago, thankfully.
Yeah. I guess it's just finding a good balance of not putting your mental health at risk, but also trying to make connections.
Yeah.
So, do you have any boundaries when it comes? I know you said with the sleep and stuff, but do you have any other kind of boundaries in the club scene and that help you stay healthy or protect like how you feel?
No, not really. Time on my own is important.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do the kind of 24-hour socializing thing, but no, not really. I know DJs that insist on like gyms or swimming pools and things like that where possible in a hotel. And I guess that makes sense if you're going to the gym every day when you're at home.
Yeah.
You want to kind of continue that for physical and mental health reasons. No, this debate. I'm not like, it's like my rider. It's nothing. It's not huge or anything like that. It's just, in terms of a hotel, it's just somewhere comfortable, quiet, just the basics.
Yeah,
really.
I get you. And
years ago, when I was doing my own bookings, so I didn't have an agent, I was doing my own bookings, I would often not take up the offer of the hotel because I was making less money per gig then. So I'd turn down the offer of the hotel and have that money put onto the fee.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'd make a bit of extra money, but I'd have no hotel. So if I finished at 3 a.m, it's a choice of, basically the only choice is after party.
Yeah, right.
And then you'd go there and then hope, I'd make sure I had a fairly early train or flight or whatever. And I could sort of maybe 10 a.m, get on my way.
Yeah.
That was good. But after a bit, that kind of was wearing you down as well, because you really had no kind of sanctuary to get away from the kind of madness. If you wanted to, if you weren't in the mood, if you were a bit just off form. Yeah.
And then walking around in public after coming straight from the after party is always an interesting one.
Yeah, airports and train stations and that. Yeah, it's no fun. There's still times. I have this coming up soon where I have to play at the club and then go directly from the club to the airport. So for that, I won't drink much or whatever. And then, but that's one of the hardest things I find as a DJ is the change from the kind of hyper social scenario of a club, and then even going to a hotel room is straight away is quite obviously a complete switch. It's in theory it's quiet, dark, no one else. Or but even worse, going to an airport and then maybe having to queue up to check in bags, dealing with airport security when you spent the last 4 hours in a sort of banging club.
Yeah, I get that.
The next thing you know, you're in a very sort
Different
of
environment,
organized, regimented kind of environment. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. So
once you're on the plane, it's not too bad. You can kind of just sort of shut down once you're sitting down. But yeah, that kind of the club to airport thing. No DJ likes that, and it's sometimes it's your only choice because you have to get somewhere.
Especially if your flight's getting delayed.
Yeah, but flight delays would kill you at that point, and like things like because of time zones and time differences. Even though the next gig is 24 hours time, it's not like that because you're losing 5 or 6 hours from changing time zones if you're going towards going eastwards.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of, have you ever turned down any gigs for guests, let's say they didn't represent your views or there's something that didn't quite align?
Generally, there's places I have played and won't play now, or vice versa, depending on the situation there. And that's also always a kind of 50-50 mix of my own beliefs and also, obviously, especially agents will remind you this, how it looks to other people. There's certain countries where people play now and they personally have no problem with it and they go and have a great time. But then they post about it on their social media and they get a lot of backlash. Why are you playing here?
Right.
Don't you realize this and that is going on? Don't you care? And often then that's when you get those kind of like half-assed statements like, I'm all about the music or music is love. And it's like, well, it's not love for the people that are getting killed, bombed, or whatever.
Yeah, very political.
Yeah. So you got to be careful like that. It's very rare where I've played a club and then like a year later they've tried to book me again and I've had an issue with the promoter, not in terms of like an argument, but just I've seen maybe how they behave around people and it's just not my kind of vibe. I think that's the best way to put it. Yeah, and I've had it before with a label. There was an instance with my label where I signed someone and released a few things of theirs without meeting them in person. And then they started coming to a few gigs when I was playing near where they lived. And they were like lovely at the start of the night. And by the end of the night, they were just really horrible, like disrespectful to me and women especially. Yeah, that had to be a case of just kind of backing off.
Yeah, that's
because if you're signed to a label and you're talking about all the time online that I'm so happy to be on this label, my new release is coming out today or whatever, and then you become like an ambassador for the label.
Yeah.
And I'm often booking artists from my label for events and showcases, so that's even more of a case of representing the label, especially if I'm not present at it.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, you want someone that's just going to represent you in the right light.
Yeah, and represent your values. What you
believe.
Yeah,
they don't. Yeah, in like politics and things, of course, there's going to be there can be a slight difference, but if it's just down to treating people badly, then I can't really abide with that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of opinions float around, but I guess with your own, if someone's just horrible, I mean, there's not really any opinion on that.
Yeah, and when you're talking with them on the phone or an email, they're very polite to you because obviously they're benefiting from this relationship. But then you see how they act around someone that's a sort of stranger to them or something, and then it's not good.
Yeah, I get that. And let's say when if you release music or if you DJ and maybe it doesn't go quite as well as you expected or doesn't receive the response you thought it might, does that have a negative effect on you? Do you feel bad or do you just go, I'll try again?
Yeah, it has a negative effect on me. If I have a bad gig or something, I really look forward to the next one.
Okay.
Maybe not put more effort into it, but just be a bit conscious of what I'm doing. It's nice if you have a gig the next night or at least the next weekend. That's good. But a bad performance, there's too many variables to this. Like a bad performance, I could think it was not my best, but if everyone else could enjoy it. If I'm quite critical of myself. So say I'm playing at like 95% my best, I will notice that, but maybe people in the crowd wouldn't so much. And I make, like I say, one mistake in 2 hours. That would have affected the music coming out of speakers for maybe 5 to 10 seconds. But for me, that means the whole thing is a disaster. Yeah,
I 100% feel you on this one.
Yeah. if a gig, occasionally events aren't so busy, and that can be for millions of factors, like I don't know, rival events in the city on that night, even the weather, the way it was promoted, so many different things. Yeah, maybe someone else in the lineup drops out or can't make it, and then you kind of blame yourself for that when a promoter's called a promoter because they're meant to promote the events, and I do all I can to help events, but
yeah, exactly.
It's kind of almost down to the promoter. Sometimes it's the wrong choice of venue, the wrong date, things like that. But yeah, you try not to sort of beat yourself up mentally about those things. In terms of releasing music's harder because a gig is like one night and you can kind of analyze it. When a record, there's a time when you're producing the record, there's a time when you're getting everything together, like the artwork and having it manufactured. And then there's the sort of pre-promotion before it comes out and then the release itself. So yeah, at any point in this kind of journey, you can make mistakes. And normally you don't know you're making them until it comes out, and then suddenly it becomes obvious to you. But it's hard. It's hard with music, and at least with music, you can, if something's not successful in the first week, you can think of a way maybe to re-promote it. Strategies. And obviously, you don't want to spam social media, but at the same point, you have to keep going out on it. If you've manufactured a bunch of vinyl and it's not selling, then yeah, you have to keep pushing it. You can't just shut up about it and accept, you got 200 copies of this record in your house.
It's got to go
Forever, which happens occasionally. Yeah, these things. With Perc tracks, I always try and sort of say if something's a success, it's down to the artist, and if it's a failure, it's down to me for signing it, which is a bit critical on myself because some EPs and albums by artists on my label, I have quite a lot of input in terms of some artists will give you an EP and go, like, here's my 3-track EP, that's it, take it or leave it, I don't want you to mess with it. And others will say, here's 20 tracks, pick your 3 favorites, put them in the order you want, maybe even make suggestions, like I like this one, but the bit in the middle doesn't work. Okay. So then you're much more part of the creative process, and you hope that if that comes out and maybe doesn't do as well as expected, you hope the artist isn't going to go, well, Ali told us to remove the bit from the middle, and that would have made it a hit, even though it probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It's easy to look for someone else to blame. So the Perc tracks thankfully has more successes and failures, but it's still, the failures sort of still sting. They don't affect me in a kind of mental health way because the label financially can absorb a few things, losing money because it has the successes as well. But it does. It doesn't kind of destroy me mentally or depress me, but it kind of lingers in the mind.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's always a thing with people who are successful. It's that pressure you put on yourself. That you can do better.
Yeah, it's really hard to know when a track's finished when I'm producing myself. Because technically, if you could do another week on it and it's going to get 10% better, that's probably worth it. But you get to a point where either you're going around in circles or it's actually becoming worse.
Overproducing it.
Yeah, it's overproducing and it's just becoming like layer upon layer of sounds and things.
Okay.
They always, some people say, like, a track's finished it's not when you can add more, but when you can't take anything more away from it, which is a kind of more minimal way of thinking. But that's quite a good way of thinking about it. Also, in terms of just talking a little bit about production, the less sounds you have in a track, the easier it is to mix down and sound good, to get a good balance of sounds. And generally, the less there is in the track, the better it will sound in a club. It will just be more the kind of the experience and the way it sounds will be more
defined.
Focused. That's why these big hard techno tracks are just a kick and maybe one kind of lead sound or screech, that kind of hardcore kind of screech sound. They sound so big because they're sort of stripped back to the basics,
and you're not having
that works better than some track that has like 50 layers.
You're not having interference between different frequencies as well, which can happen.
Yeah, you want things to sound separated, and a sound system can handle something easier that's very, very kind of defined. If it's some sort of collage of 50 layers of something like an old sort of progressive house record or something, which were very sort of detailed productions, many layers, it's kind of, they can often sound, these days they sound a little bit weak.
Yeah.
Because everything's a little bit sort of confused and on top of each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, you having all these vinyls, sometimes if they're not selling. So now I know why when you're posting on the broadcast group, you're trying to get rid of them.
Yeah.
I did get some the other day, actually. Very good.
Oh, thank you. Right. Yeah. It's really hard because if even something simple like an Instagram story. If I put an Instagram story up about a release, it will 99% of the time result in some kind of sales. Even maybe even if the aim is to sell vinyl, it might lead to some digital sales or something like that. But you just can't do that every day. You can't just constantly say,
yeah, people get
it's
annoyed.
out now, buy it. It's out now. But people just start putting you on mute, unfollowing you.
Yeah.
And you can even if you try and make different bits of content, like you might ask a producer who made I'll do a little video about how you made the record or your thoughts behind the kind of process or whatever. But yeah, after a bit, it's like flogging a dead horse.
Yeah.
If you're just going on and on about the same thing. That's the same with any social media. I think it's about a mix of content.
Do you feel pressure from having to put everything out on social media?
Yeah, like they always say, like, no one enjoys it. Even the people whose careers more than mine, whose careers are kind of social, sort of almost they have social media to thank for it because they came up at a time where, say, Instagram or TikTok was really booming. Even those people hate it, you know. Like I do my own social media, and I have an agent, but I don't have a manager.
Right.
So I'm kind of my own sort of man in this respect. But I've had people that have landed in a city and their phone dings, and it's like a checklist from their agent saying, don't forget to get this photo, make sure you do this video, post, at least 2 hours before the gig, post this. When you get to the venue, post something else before you play. And that's in terms of business, that's sensible. It's kind of keeping them on track to do and not get distracted by, whatever, hanging out with people. But yeah, it is a business, it's a career, but it just gets a little bit too regimented and kind of business-like.
And then it's taken away from time you could be spending producing or thinking about. The music to me. I mean, that's why you're in this, right? You love music.
Yeah, it's the old memes where like I came in this to be a musician and a DJ, and now I'm a video editor, content creator, photographer. It's like about 20 different jobs, as well as all that the sort of back end stuff you do for your label.
Yeah, it's
label management kind of things. Yeah, it's hard. But there's not many artists that have no social media. I can't really think of any. Even some of the ones that claim they don't have social media have like fan pages.
Yeah, right.
That are run by their sort of management.
Right. Yeah.
So if you wonder how like a fan page gets all the exclusive content, it's coming directly from the artist.
Inside the tip.
It's like posting in the third person.
Yeah. It's not just like a super fan has set it up or something.
Yeah, it's like, how do they have backstage access to every gig? It's because they're filming it themselves. Yeah, it's like saying Perc was here rather than I'm here.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of fine. But I don't know. I've kind of resisted. I'm on TikTok, but not really pushing it too hard and things like that. Yeah, it's part of the business. For me, it's fine because I'm doing fairly well at the moment, and my social media, it's again that ties into social media is key to mental health because you could make what you think is an amazing track, or at least a good track. You could do a photo shoot you think came out quite well. It's like it's not too sort of looking desperate. It's kind of cool, and then you put it online, and whether it's the algorithm, whether it's how you posted it, the time of day you post it just does nothing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of depressing, especially if you have a few of those in a row.
And it's when you've put all that time and effort into it as well. I mean, it's the same it's the same for me, obviously, with this podcast and clips that I make. Sometimes this is going to be really good. And then there's nothing. You're like, oh, or the one where you don't put any effort into it does really well. And you're like, how does this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's so many variables, it's impossible to kind of predict. It's the same with releasing music and things like that. But because if you're releasing music, it's like you might wait a while and see, oh, okay, well, it started to pick up after a week or two. The vinyl sales picked up. There's a bit of momentum building up here. But with social media, if a post, within 12 hours, if an Instagram post isn't doing well in 12 hours, I don't think it's not really going to magically become viral or something. Like if it was like a little comedy video, it might somehow get shared and pick up, but that's not kind of the field I work in.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's almost Instagram, and it's almost like running a sort of 24-hour news channel about yourself.
Yeah.
And it's how you play it, I guess. Some people are continually posting stories and posts, and some people do that thing where they just do post every few weeks.
Yeah.
A bunch of if you get it right, if you do a post every few weeks and it's say 6 photos or 8 photos from your kind of recent travels, that can do well if it's like.
I mean, it just shows what you're up to
Something
and
people
stuff.
find interesting, or if they find it interesting or attractive in any way, it can do well. But yeah, it's hard. It's like I don't know anyone. It would sound strange if any musician said, "Oh, I love the social media side of it," but
Yeah.
most people hate it. You know?
Well, I did a episode on here recently about social media and the impacts and the pressure of it all. So yeah, if you're listening, I'll post a link.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out.
And so now back onto events. And do you think there's anything that promoters or clubs could do to support mental health of artists and guests that they're not doing already?
Not particularly. The kind of pressure from promoters for a DJ to kind of party with them has reduced compared to how it used to be, but it's still there occasionally. But I think most promoters now, if they offered you something or said you want a drink and you said no, there's not going to be not going to get upset in any way. When in the past, especially if you want a drink or you want shots before your set or something, someone would think that was almost quite weird. I don't know what else they can do. It's a lot of the mental health things for me and touring comes down to people being professional. If you say you land at 4 p.m. at an airport, and then as you land, you get a text from the promoter saying, like, our driver's running late. You're gonna be here for 2 hours. It's not the end of the world, but it's just like you're kind of that flow of like airport to hotel to rest is broken, and then like airports aren't particularly good places to hang out in. Like no one really does it by choice. So yeah, when these things go wrong, or like I had a promoter that was going to pick me up an hour before my set, and I'd get to the club about 45 minutes before the set, and it was later and later and later, and I got to the club like 2 minutes before I played. So in their eyes, well, he's on time, he's here, let's do this. But for me, it took away that whole kind of acclimatization and preparation mentally that you have when you first get to the club. Also, I like to hear what the DJ before me is playing.
Yeah, I get you.
Both so that I don't maybe repeat not the exact tracks, but I don't repeat roughly the kind of vibe and the kind of stuff they're playing, and also just to see how it goes down with the crowd.
Yeah.
You can kind of learn.
What's working.
If it's somewhere you don't know that well, so it takes that away. And I've seen DJs turn up. There's some DJs that want to be there at the club no more than 10 minutes before their set, and they'll come on, and their second track is something that the DJ before played in his last hour.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But so from my perspective, I think for me, especially now, I would love to see more day events, even if they were in a setting that that was dark.
That would be the thing.
Because the thing is, like, when I'm dancing, I like to feel like I can just express myself without everybody like staring at me, right? And there is a lot of day parties, but I guess a lot of them can be outside. But if I could go to a party in the day and then go to sleep at a normal time, that would be amazing for me, because if I stay out late now, it completely messes me up for days. So do you think clubs and promoters could have more of 4-day events? Do you think that would work?
Yeah, I think there's a desire for it. Also, people that have children, obviously people that have jobs and want to keep their kind of sleep cycle steady from their sort of 9 to 5 job those days. Yeah, there's I think it's Annie Mac has a series of day events. I think there's something on RA about that recently. But yeah, it's fine. I like playing in the dark.
Yeah.
So as a clubber and as a DJ. So at an indoor event, let's say like 5, 6 p.m. inside in the dark. I don't know. Would it work or would it feel slightly contrived?
I get you.
I don't know. It's weird. Like an outdoor event, day festivals, like a lot of the Dutch festivals end at 11 or even midnight, and they don't go on into the night. It's sort of the 1-day festivals. So yeah, that works quite well. So you get a bit of nighttime. So you get a bit. It finishes in the dark, and that obviously if I'm playing at one of those festivals, I'll try and get a set maybe after 8 p.m. or something where it starts to get a bit darker.
Yeah.
So even because you're playing one of the big sort of Dutch festival tents where the sides open. So if it's daylight outside, it's still daylight in the tent.
Yes, yeah.
So it's nicer when it gets dark, and then things like the screens and any lighting just kind of, they work a lot better, obviously, in the dark. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, day parties would be good, but it just has to feel right.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I prefer.
It's a different atmosphere. 4 p.m. is different to 4 a.m.
Yeah, 100%. The thing is, as well, is that comes with the nighttime events is, let's say I might go to a day party and I could be perfectly have enough energy to last, dancing the whole time. But then, if I'm going to something at night, that's when I might think, okay, I'm going to start using stimulants now because I'm getting tired. So do you think that kind of plays into one of the reasons why people will take these substances?
Yeah, I think so. It's nighttime. There's something about the night that's just a little bit more, I don't know, it just kind of almost leads into that kind of drinking and whatever behavior a bit more. I think it's almost like you're doing something slightly naughty while everyone else is asleep.
Yeah, I get it.
Everyone's tucked up in bed and you're in a club at 4 a.m.
Yeah,
getting up to whatever.
yeah, I feel that.
Is that when? Yeah, I think if it was 4 p.m. in the afternoon and you're in the sunshine or something,
Yeah, it's something quite the same.
That's a different kind of feeling. Yeah.
It almost goes back to being like dancing around the campfire under the stars kind of vibe.
Yeah. It's like I think of a beach party like that or something.
Yeah.
With a fire and some music, like they become kind of magical at night.
For sure.
But in the daytime, they just kind of chill.
Yeah. And I think another issue can be, some events that I've been to anyway have been quite oversold and very busy, and it can actually be pretty uncomfortable and actually dangerous as well, both from overwhelming and also just from the heat and stuff. So that would be something nice to see bit better regulating in some cases.
Yeah. And on the mental health issue, an overcrowded event or something can be a nightmare if you don't handle crowds well or something. And that's a problem. I was talking to someone else about this recently, but like you have a venue for 1,000 people, but it's 2 rooms, one for 300, one for 700. The headliner comes on, you've got 1,000 people trying to get into the 700 capacity room. And it depends how the event's managed. Either people are not allowed in and therefore disappointed and feel like maybe that they've bought a ticket and didn't get to see what they wanted to see, or they just let 1,000 people go into a room for 700, and you get possibly like actual sort of physical health, accidents, crushes, things like that, or you just get that kind of mental health panic for someone that's been partying for however long that day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with the club scene, do you think it will be? I mean, I know they often have clubs have like welfare staff. Do you think it will be? I've seen some people in not necessarily physically bad states, but people scared. These things can happen. Do you think it would be sensible to maybe have mental health first aiders at some events?
Yeah, I guess a welfare officer who's not a paramedic would kind of maybe sort of drift into that category,
or have mental health training, I guess.
And there's and then at such a wide spectrum of things from like a mental health thing being triggered by something at the event to like a mental health issue due to substance consumption, to two very different things. Someone, I know. I've seen people in all sorts of states over the years, and generally venues like look after them, but it's hard. But I think more now you see these people there, like they'll have an armband on or like some kind of vest, and you see it more. You see it a bit in the UK. You see it quite a lot more in sort of Netherlands, Belgium, places like that.
Yeah, more. Yeah, I got that.
A little bit more on it with that stuff.
So do you think in terms of like maintaining your mental health in like the club scene is more of your own personal issue, or it's more of a cultural or social issue?
I think generally the culture has got better. We're talking about magazines sort of celebrating overuse in the past. I think it's got better. I think people are more kind of understanding and sympathetic. Things like the idea of sober raving when I started going out in the sort of late 90s was, people would see it as bizarre, and there'd be some people would probably make like fairly mean comments about you if you're doing it and things like that. When now it's that's weirdly one of the not complaints, but one of the comments from promoters is like hard techno events sell a lot of tickets. They're popular. They bring in a young crowd, but that crowd doesn't drink alcohol, which is obviously maybe the way the venue makes a profit. But that's their choice, and you just have to find a venue would have to find a way to somehow
make money on something else,
manage and maintain, whether it's a more expensive ticket or I don't know somehow. But I think the culture now is better in terms of clubbing and sort of dance music. I think it's a bit more open and receptive to these kind of conversations. And I think in society in general, I think if you sort of looked at newspapers these days and how much mental health is talked about in terms of maybe what celebrities are going through and things like that, compared with, let's say, in the sort of 70s, 80s, 90s even, where, you know, someone is either sort of totally fine or they're depressed or
they're
you know,
mad.
crazy.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
And that was it. Yeah, just mad.
Go and lock
Off
them up.
yeah, when often it's something small that has become something big due to a lack of awareness and treatment.
Yeah, definitely. And
yeah.
So what advice would you give for like younger up and coming artists, or let's say people who are just getting into kind of the techno or rave scene and trying to either protect their well-being or just general tips?
Oh, in general, or from a mental health point of view?
Both. You can cover both, yeah.
Okay, generally first, I don't know. It's really hard because I think it's as with any industry, as the barriers of entry lower, that's a good thing. More people making music, more people DJing, more people being creative and expressing themselves. That has to be a positive, and you can't regulate that in any way or stop. We've got enough DJs now. No more, please. You can't do anything like that. But then it brings in enhanced competition, which is driven, and that's driven by social media. You see, that guy that I went to college with is now playing international gigs, and I'm sort of still playing like some pub in my hometown or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of, it can be really tough. I don't really know how. I always say this: if I was sort of early 20s, making some music, playing some gigs, I don't know how I would kind of try and take it to the next level, because the original path was really to make music, sign to big labels, and then that would generally lead to gigs. That was quite a clear kind of pathway for a career. And now making music and being on respected labels is definitely a positive thing for your career, but it's not the kind of guaranteed route to a full-time sort of earnings and gigs that it used to be. So I really don't know. I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of people turn to kind of gimmicks and things. It's kind of a shortcut. And if you're wearing an outfit on stage, or it's a gimmick, or how you do social media, if you're comfortable with that, or you're even uncomfortable with it, but you accept it as basically a career move, like almost doing a job you don't like, but the money's okay, I think then that's fine. But for me, I couldn't really do that. I know it's hard. I really don't have any advice for someone starting off now, apart from the really obvious stuff, like don't rush things, try and be true to yourself, find your own sound. But these are very vague,
okay,
kind of things to say. There's no magic, thing you say. Oh, do this many Instagram posts a week. Release on this label, and I guarantee you'll be making this much in a year. That there was never a solution like that, but there used to be closer to a.
Well, I guess it's
a defined pathway,
determination and consistency as well.
Yeah, consistency, and I always try and be aware of what other people are doing. I don't just live in my own little bubble, but also, try. Sometimes if you see someone doing something that's successful, see why it's successful. Maybe like in some ways do the opposite of it. If everyone is doing a certain type of release or a certain type of party, look for something that's compatible, that people can still get their heads around, but is but different, something fresh. In terms of like mental health going into the industry, you say keep off social media, but that's impossible, really. I know people that literally post on their social media and immediately close it down because they don't want to see posts from other people. But then at the same time, there's now that thing of like more engagement, replying to every comment. If someone says like loved your gig, you reply, hey, thank you, or when are you in this country? You don't just ignore that. You write like, hopefully there next year or something. So that means you have to be like almost like it's not just posting and running away. It's like managing the posts as they go up. So it's really hard, because times where I've not been so busy with gigs, I look at someone who I think of one of my peers. It's like they've got 8 or 9 gigs that month. They're really busy, and I've got 1 or 2. Like, what's happening? And it's trying to tell yourself that a career. It's a bit like those adverts. I always say it's adverts for investments, and they say your investment can go down as well as up. It's like a warning for financial investment. The same with a career. Your career, 1 month or 2 months you can get down. It doesn't mean your career's over. If you have a year where every month is going down, then there's probably an issue happening, or the industry in itself is just somehow contracting and shrinking, or it's oversaturated with artists. But that's a different issue. But if it's just 1 month where you're not so busy, take it on the chin. If you have extra time at home because you're not gigging, like make music or spend time with friends, recharge your batteries physically and mentally. And then, a time where you don't have so many gigs or you're not so busy just gives you a bit more time to sort of step out of things and think about it and whatever. I always think of in COVID, no one was that stressed about gigs because no one had any gigs. It wasn't like, oh, I've got no gigs for the next 6 months. No one did. So everything was kind of quite chill. So when I see someone that's got a really busy month of gigs and maybe I'm not so busy that particular month, I like it's the only people that post about their gigs are people that are busy with them. So there's a million other DJs who are like, they've got 2 gigs that month. They're like, oh, I don't want to just list 2 gigs. It's going to look a little bit kind of low. So obviously the people that are successful are going to shout about it much more.
Well, that's just the fallacy of social media. You only see when people post in like the good stuff. You don't see all the people that aren't.
Yeah, it's presenting a fake, not quite manufactured, but definitely a heavily edited version of yourself.
Well, it's the same with my channel and stuff, because I engage with stuff that I see. I see all this other stuff. I'm like, oh, they've got so much, all these followers and all these things. But then you just think that's just what's being fed back to you. It's not like, it doesn't represent everything and everyone.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I have a YouTube channel for Perc tracks, but it's just for basically up the tracks. But to actually start, I don't know if this is an offensive term, but as a YouTuber, actually building it, I think everyone says the first months, years are the hardest. Get into like different milestones of subscribers. I don't know, 500,000, and it goes up or whatever. It takes time. It's really hard. And there's a lot of people doing it, and a lot of people. I think years ago, YouTube was almost quite amateurish, and it's become very professional.
Yeah, 100%.
In terms of like, just the way videos are edited and put together. Before it was like, people just upload anything and it could do well. Now.
Well, it's essentially like independent TV shows that are on there. Essentially,
it's pro quality.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really hard.
Yeah, well,
that's also the same for like dance music, social media. It used to be a scrappy photo on a phone, and now it's like a proper photo shoot. Some people list, do the credits for their photo shoot, and there's probably like 8 or 10 people involved: photographer's assistant, someone doing the lighting, a stylist. Hair and makeup.
Many different aspects to just the DJing. Like, it's very complicated.
Yeah, I always wonder for a big photo shoot like that, who's getting paid or not.
Yeah,
like maybe the photographer probably is, but if the other people down there are like unpaid assistant / intern, it's interesting. Same when someone puts up a video or something, like an actual video that's been filmed for a track rather than something at a gig. It's like how did this work out, or have they hit up like a film student and said, I have 250,000 followers. Will you do something for free? That is kind of pain and exposure.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
That's all
that's
the
a whole
DJs
other issue.
Yeah, of course.
But there's DJs that wouldn't play a gig for free, but will try and hit someone up for a free video, photo shoot, whatever. Because and I hate to do that. It's I don't like that kind of slightly hypocritical way of doing things. It's like people that moan constantly. They don't want their music used to train AI models, but then they're using artwork that's AI generated, that's trained on the work of graphic designers for their music. It's
just like, if it doesn't affect me, then it's fine.
It's the artwork side of it's really convenient, and the music side of it is disgusting and immoral.
It doesn't make sense.
That's
yeah. But so for me, I wouldn't say I don't listen to techno all the time. If I go to the gym, love it. When I go out, love it. When I'm at home, I pretty much never listen to it. Well, very rarely, or other than when I'm DJing. But would you say there's a specific type of music or a specific track that you really like at the moment that that's chill or like you really enjoy, or type of music?
There is a band from North London, which is my part of London, called Real Lies, who have been around for a long time. I think they had a break between albums, like maybe a 6-7 year break at one point, and they've put out 2 albums in the last few years. The last one came out March, April this year. Real Lies, and they're just really good. It's a kind of if I say, as soon as I say pop music, some people's eyes will kind of roll, but yeah, kind of somewhere between Underworld, The Streets, Pet Shop Boys, kind of the classic guy on the synths and guy doing the vocals, male duo.
Nice.
So I listen to that a lot because it's rooted in dance music. The instrumentation is a little bit nostalgic, like a bit of old rave, without the kind of toughness of rave, but just the kind of melodies and the break beats. And then the vocals are very much more kind of tales of kind of clubbing and London and relationships and things like that. So I really like that. That's really good at the moment.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll put a link down to it in the description if anyone wants to have a listen.
Yeah, I think the album is called "We Will Annihilate Our Enemies," which is a much more aggressive title than the album needs, sounds like. Okay. Yeah, I'll send you a link to that. It's on all the platforms now.
Sounds good. But thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today. It's been really interesting.
Sorry about this glare behind me.
Don't worry about it.
This is my new studio that I've been in for a few months now, and the equipment's set up. The rest of it is a bit of a mess. And I've realised that for things during the day, I need some blind. It's a converted factory, and there's these two big windows
it's all
each
good.
side.
But
I need some.
I'll tell you something funny. I've seen you a few times, and I remember I think I was a bit off my head once, and I was like, "Oh, he's Perc." We're like, "Oh, why is he called Perc?" And I was just like, "Oh, he's South American, and his name's Percy Rodriguez." And this has just been this has been the story in our friendship group ever since. Yeah, it's quite funny.
That's actually correct. Yeah, that's it.